Hey guys, Jeremy here with Simple Life. In this episode of Tool Time Tuesday, I'm going to show you the latest method that I've been using to drill a hole in a block of wood for creating a wah-style handle. Cool thing about this is I learned it from you fine folks. Now, right before we get into this, I want to start off by saying this is not going to be applicable to most of you watching. Not all of you have a metal lathe or a wood lathe, so you can take that for what it is. I will say this though, often you'll see methods of doing something, and even though you may not have the tools or the capacity to do it in that way, that information can just sit in your brain and it might be useful down the road. Never know. So one of the problems, it's not a major problem. I mean, you can definitely work around this, but when you're doing a wah-style handle, you're boring out this hole. You know, we're gonna use a dowel in here, half-inch hole, half-inch dowel. I want this hole to be as perfectly in line with the block as I possibly can. Now, when you're using a drill press, it's certainly doable. I mean, I can get it done. It's a pain in the butt. It's not convenient, right? You're gonna clamp it in your clamp. You have to make sure you're in line this way as well as this way, right? Forward, back, side to side. Because the last thing you want is to put your blade in there and look down here and have your blade going off at an angle, right? It's heading to the east. So sometimes if that happens, you can correct it, right? You can true up the block, but you know, with a block like this, there's not a lot of extra meat on here. And I do need to be very, very careful. Now, previously I made a video showing how I did that in my 4-jaw chuck and my metal lathe. And if you're unfamiliar with the difference between a 4-jaw chuck and a 3-jaw chuck, 3-jaw chuck, when you turn any one of those little doobie things, those little square keys, all 3 jaws go in and out together. A 4-jaw chuck has 4 jaws, so it's obviously a big difference, but the key critical thing to think about is that each jaw is independently adjusted. So I could move this jaw here and move this jaw here. I could have this thing off-centered. You can do a lot of really cool things with a 4-jaw chuck, but they take a lot of work to set up. What I would do before is I'd get a whole batch of these blocks that I needed drilled, and I would set things up. I'd mark every one of them, get them pretty close, and then, you know, set it up, and then I could generally swap them out, and they're pretty close. It's coming together good, but the big thing about doing on the lathe is that even if I'm not exactly centered in the block, I'm always going to be parallel with the wood, which in my opinion is the most important part. It's easy just to shave a little handle down one side of it evenly than it is to try and realign an entire block to a crooked blade. Now in that video, some of you fine folks had left comments about a 2-jaw pin turning chuck, and I'd never heard of such a thing. I'm like, what? What is that? Did a little Googleizing and found one of these bad boys on Amazon. This, my friends, if you don't know, is a 2-jaw pin turning chuck. It's got 2 jaws, and like a 3-jaw chuck, they go in and out together, keeping whatever they're clamped centered with the center of this. This is really cool. Typically these things are designed to go on a wood lathe, and they've got the 1 by, what's that thread? Is it 1 by 12? 1 by 10? I don't remember. But I remember seeing this and being like, okay, I'm gonna have to make an adapter. I think a standard coarse 1-inch bolt is the same thread. I thought if I buy one of those and cut it off, I can clamp that. And then I thought about it, I'm like, wait a minute, 3-jaw chuck. Clamp it right here and you're done. And so that's what I've been doing, and it has been working very, very well. I'll put a link in the description where I got this one. It was on Amazon. I think it was less than $100. Not the most precise thing on earth, but definitely good enough for what I need. I mean, if you laid out a perfect center and drilled it out, this thing would be slightly off, but it does a good job. That looks pretty good to me. But it's so fast and convenient and repeatable, and I don't have to like set up and do a whole bunch at one time. With the 4-jaw, if I were to take that time and put on the chuck, get it all dialed in, I would want to make sure I had at least 10 or 20 of these to batch through so it was worth the time of setting up. This thing, I can literally just stick it in my 3-jaw, tighten it up, put any old block of wood I want, and then drill it out, and it's going to be centered or very close to centered every time. So I'll just show you real quick in case you're still, oh, also these jaws are, you can flip them around so you can have a bigger capacity. So, you know, we're going to clamp on the corners, and it doesn't matter if it's a square or a rectangular piece, it's still going to center it. So we'll stick this in here like this, tighten it down, and then they give you these 2 little bars here. The idea is you stick them in here, and now you've got some leverage, and I have been doing that. And then boom, it's clamped in there. It's clamped in there and it's centered. I can go ahead and use my tailstock, drill this out, and bada boom, bada bing, I've got a hole very nicely centered. I like this trick. So I want to thank you guys so much for sharing it with me. Well, let's put this on the lathe. I'll actually do one so you can see it rather than me just babbling. But it's pretty cool. You know, if you have a metal lathe and you do hidden tang handles, this might be something you want to look at. Not that expensive, but this is one of those things I'm like, this is great. This has literally saved me hours, like maybe once a month, several hours. That's significant after a while. Okay. Let's go drill one of these suckers out. All right, so coming up to our 3-jaw chuck. Again, this is where we move these in and out. There's 3 of them. Either one of them will move all these jaws together. And I'm just gonna take this thing, and we've got this external snap ring here. And it's actually kind of nice because I push hard, just push it nice and hard against there, then tighten it up. And it still allows me to move this because it's spaced away a little bit. So let's grab a little piece of wood. And I'll do this sucker right here. It looks good. It's a nice piece of curly maple. This is from the Sharp Carpenter on the old Gram. Does some nice stuff if you want to check him out. There will be a link in the bottom. Just want to make sure I know which side I want to be the top. We're gonna pretend it's this side. So I push this right hard against the back and then start tightening this thing down, just like that. Get these 2 little bars. Oops, wrong way there, Jer. Good job. Okay, tighten it up. Good to go. We can just drill that out. I need to fire up my phase converter, fire this up, and then I'll just kind of show you. We'll just touch it off. I don't know if I'm really gonna drill this whole thing because I kind of need a specific project so I know exactly how deep to go and stuff. So I'm just gonna take a center drill and we'll just kind of touch it there so you can kind of just get an idea. Also bring it a little closer so you can see some of the action rather than this far away. Spinning quite nicely there. Okay. There you go. Yeah, it looks good to me. Again, not like ultra precise machinist accurate, but it's plenty good for this application. Let me just see if we can hit a focus right here. Go boom and then boom. See that? That is pretty darn good if you ask me. And again, once we drill this through the length, it's going to be perfectly in line, which is the most critical thing. Exactly the main thing we're trying to accomplish. It's a pretty slick little tool if I do say so myself. Well, there you have it, folks. That is the latest method that I've been using to put holes into my blocks for wall style handles. Again, if you don't have a metal lathe, this might not be the most applicable to you, but probably kind of interesting to see nonetheless. I was really excited to learn this. Again, thank you guys for sharing this. I've said this before, and I'll always say this. I share what little I actually know on YouTube, and I get way more back from you guys. So thank you so much for enlightening me, for giving me your tips and tricks. I appreciate it. And in turn, I can just share those out and we can just keep enriching the knowledge base that's out there. All right, guys, thanks for watching. We'll see you on the next video. Have a wonderful day. Cheers.